So this break is a break up. That's...
Come on, Jerry. You know this isn't easy for me. On the surface, everything looks fine. I've got this great guy. And he loves my kid. And he sure does like me a lot. And I can't live like that. It's not how I'm built.
Welcome to part 2 of our Jerry Maguire episode. But before we go into real talk, it's time for PP, our patron pitch. This is where we let our patrons know what they can expect in their exclusive patron feed. We also let non-patrons know what they're missing out on. So, as usual, we're going to start with the ground floor. First tier, $1. If you just contribute $1 to our patron, the Travoltis tier, you get access to all the cutting room floor segments, stuff that doesn't make it to the episode. We're running long on this one, as expected. And honestly, Alex, we're doing really well considering that half of the recording hasn't just been me quoting Jerry Maguire. But still, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of stuff that's just not going to make it to the final cut. Well, it will make it to the patron feed, along with our bonus episodes. This month, it's December, so we have 2 of them. We have our Christmas bonus episode, which is going to be on the Black Christmas remake from 2006, following up on last year's Christmas episode, which was the original Black Christmas. No promises on whether next year we'll bring yet another Black Christmas remake review, but that'll be up to Alex.
I think we're done.
Never say never, Alex.
That's true.
I mean, there could be a patron that just decides to make us watch the 2019 or whatever it is.
We had to watch fucking Live Free or Die Hard again. So, you know.
That's true. That's the in quotations marks problem with having patrons is that they have power over us, such as Jamie Russell, who is the man behind our second bonus episode for December, which is on the movie Harold and Maude. And this is not, I'm not going to compare it to A Good Day to Die Hard or even another Black Christmas remake, because this is a classic, and this is a movie that I know that I should have watched already, and I'm glad that we're, much like Nosferatu last month, like I'm glad that we're having a chance to kind of take care of this blind spot. They'll also be on the Patreon feed, available to everyone. The chat is also available to anybody that's a patron, regardless of the tier. There's been some activity there. People have opinions about Killers of the Flower Moon and different levels of excitement for it and for our conversation about it. So join so you can talk to us somewhere other than Twitter.
Not just us, but other patrons, like-minded folk like yourself.
Yes. Just find your community. It's all Contrarians all the time there. Now, if you want more content, that's what the other tiers are for. So you can go up a tier to the Winonis, the $3 tier. That gives you access to our pre-recording notes, give you access to our quick video reviews. Not so quick, really. This month, we're doing our final dual QVR for this season. The movie Ravenous, which stars Robert Carlyle. That's pretty much what I know about it, Alex. But that's demanded by patron John Amenta. I mean, I'm always glad whenever John participates. At the same time, I have to remember that John made us watch Invasion USA a few months ago. So we'll see what happens. This could go either way. And then, of course, you also have access to Contrarians After Hours. That's the spin-off show where we tell you about other things that we're watching, that we're reading, that we're playing, listening to. Alex, what are you bringing to Contrarians After Hours this time?
Another recent release, Julio.
What's happening?
Didn't leave my house for this. I know, right? Dude, when it's all said and done, I might have seen 10 movies this year, that came out this year, because I watched this and then Iron Claw next week, baby, and that'll definitely be a massive point of discussion after I watch that. No, but this one I didn't leave the house for. Recent Netflix release titled May December, starring Natalie Portman and I guess a subject of Contrarians legend, for better or for worse, Julianne Moore.
I can't believe that we haven't done Freedom Land on the show yet.
Oof. And then someone named Charles Melton, which God bless. This is, in reading some people's reviews of this, I sometimes forget like how pop culture and like, you know, period time happening obsessed I can be. I was surprised to find how many people were unaware of Mary Kay Letourneau, because I just kind of remember that happening and how big of a fucking deal it was, and like the terror of local mothers and fathers having to explain the situation to their kids, because I'm trying to remember when that whole thing happened and how old I would have been. But it would have been young enough to be like, we got to tell the kids because this is like everywhere on the news. Anyway, it's loosely based on that. Do you know who I'm talking about, Mary Kay Letourneau?
No, but it sounds like something that happened before I moved to the States.
This is true. It did. Mary Kay Letourneau was a teacher who had an affair with her student who was like 13 and then went to prison, and they got married when she got out. It had been a while since someone had done like a version of that story. And this movie is directed by Todd Haynes, who I know I've talked about on After Hours before, and I'm probably sure I've mentioned him somewhere along the way in Contrarians history, because he directed, to me, one of the most punk rock movies ever made, Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story from 1987. But this is his most recent directorial offering, written by Sammy Birch, who I'm not familiar with. Had under a 2-hour runtime, so I was like, fuck it, we're going to fire this up on Netflix. If nothing else, it'll give me something to talk about in After Hours. So that is what I'm going to be discussing. Julio, what are you bringing to the table?
On my end, Alex, I figured might as well finish my Jim Cummings journey. I've seen 2 of the 3 movies. I was like, let's just close down that loop. So the beta test is finally down in the books. That's it. Now I just sit back and wait for Jim Cummings to make another movie, I guess. So I'll tell you about the beta test. For those of you following the story, we both really liked Thunder Road when we covered it on the Patreon channel last year. And then a couple After Hours ago, I talked about The Wolf of Snowy Hollow, which was not as successful for me. So now I'm not going to tell you how I feel about beta test until we get there. But that's the tease. Find out. Did Jim Cummings strike out, or did Jim Cummings hit another home run? You'll find out at this After Hours, along with my thoughts on an old TV show that our friend Ryan from Yum Yum Pod, Ryan and Rachel, you know, they cover sci-fi stuff, and every now and then Ryan will just hit me with like, hey, you should watch this. And so after him insisting I should watch Space Above and Beyond, which is available on YouTube for free, I was like, sure. It's just a 1-season show, and you know, the benefit whenever I do something like this is that I can watch the show and then listen to Ryan and Rachel talk about it. So I watched the entire season of Space Above and Beyond, and I will talk to you about it. I mean, it's not like when I watched Babylon 5, which was, you know, 5 years of show. This is just, I mean, it's an old season, so it's like 20-something episodes, but that's it. You know, that the show didn't get renewed, and thankfully they got to some sort of ending, but I'll tell you about it. It's very different from the beta test. I can tell you that much right now. So Space Above and Beyond, the beta test, and then May, December, the movie that might have finally changed Alex's mind about Julianne Moore. We'll find out. That's your After Hours. And then, if you want to be part of the elite group of patrons that gets to tell us what to watch, then that's what the other 2 tiers are for. You can get the $5 tier, the Embrace, or the $10 tier, the GATS, and just see what that offers. Go to patreon.com/Contrarian Prime. See how you would like to join the Contrarian supplements.
$1, $3, $5, and $10 our respective tiers, as Julio just ran down there. Head on over, throw $1 our way. It'll open up on the ground floor and give you access to take a full tour, I guess you would say, and see what we have there, be it our Rock Cena epic journey that we went through, detailing their professional wrestling rivalry and their respective movie careers, our Lindsay Lohan Life and Times retrospective, and the upcoming projects that we've set our goals at 30, 40, and 50 patrons, no matter what the level. So $1 will get you access, like I said, and we'll add to that overall number to unlock, I guess you would say, some of our desired projects. So to all of our current patrons, we love y'all dearly. And as I like to say, we are taking applications that will be promptly reviewed and accepted for any and all new ones. So patreon.com/Contrarian Prime. Check it out.
Now, Alex, I knew I should have written a Dickie Fox quote to take us into real talk, but I didn't. I know there's one where he starts with, roll with the punches. Tomorrow is a new day or something. And so let's go with that. Let's roll with the punches and roll into real talk.
You know, I don't think we need to do the thing where we tell each other everything.
All right. Jerry Maguire was released on December 13th of 1996. How about that, Julio? We're recording this on the day it was released. What is that? 27 years ago?
Hey.
Contrarians Clairvoyance, as we call it. Directed and written by Cameron Crowe, the Crowbar. Based on Lee Steinberg, who is a former sports agent. The former vice president of the Green Bay Packers, Andrew Brandt, said the film accurately portrayed the cutthroat nature of the agent business, especially the lengths to which agents will go to retain or pilfer clients. It also captures the financial, emotional, and psychological investment that goes far beyond negotiating contracts.
Does the average sports agent have to choose between Kelly Preston and Renée Zellweger? Or was that movie magic?
It's a tough life, I tell you what.
Yeah.
At the 69th, nice, Academy Awards, nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Screenplay, and Best Film Editing. The only one from that lineup to win was in the Best Supporting Actor category, Cuba Gooding Jr., of course. If you're wondering who he beat out and who the others lost to, be sure to check out our YouTube warm-up video for this episode. We'll go more into the Academy Awards of that year.
Either Alex or I will recreate Cuba's acceptance speech.
I was about to say, one of the more famous ones, one of the more genuine and infectious ones. I think it's a memorable one, definitely, in a good way. Sadly, that was the end for Cuba Gooding Jr.
Actually, he did have a mini resurgence.
Yeah, when he played OJ in the People versus OJ Simpson. Exactly.
Yeah. Not quite Rod Tidwell levels, but he reminded people he was still around.
84% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, I was astonished. And I know these things. I've seen this movie before. I really enjoy this movie. It's Cameron Crowe with this and Almost Famous back to back. That's one of the most impressive 1-2 combos I think an American filmmaker's ever had. But I was still just shocked at how many things in this movie are just regular parts of pop culture vocabulary. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's not just, we're going to need a bigger boat. It's, there's 5, we're going to need a bigger boats in this movie. Interestingly enough, and I think this will segue into the quotes that you've pulled, the green splotches. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, writing that, and this is something you called out in the first half, there are so many subplots that Jerry Maguire seems too full. He also commented that the film starts out looking cynical and quickly becomes heartwarming. I think that's an interesting jumping off point from our boy Raj. Julio, what other quotes did you pull for Real Talk?
All right. I got a few. I didn't see Ebert listed on the app, but sometimes they skip some reviews. So probably for the best. We don't want to spotlight Ebert every episode. We could.
Easily.
But we got to spread the wealth. We got to call out people like Joe Morgenstern from the Wall Street Journal, who says it's hard to believe that this frantic, self-congratulatory affair was written and directed by Mr. Crowe, the man who did Say Anything and Singles, 2 films notable for their modesty and tact. Have you seen Say Anything and Singles, Alex? I don't remember.
I've seen Say Anything. I haven't seen Singles.
I've seen Singles once, and I was thoroughly underwhelmed. That movie, gets a lot of love, and I don't know. I would have to watch it again to really know for sure, but I just felt like it was hyped too much for me. I get what this guy's saying. This is Cameron Crowe's first big Hollywood movie. And yeah, I mean, he had John Cusack in Say Anything, but that was before John Cusack was John Cusack. And even John Cusack at the level that he was at his most popular, he was never Tom Cruise, right? And then Singles has what? Matt Dillon and Campbell Scott. I mean, Bridget Fonda. I mean, these are known actors, but again, they're not mega stars like Tom Cruise. But that's not a bad thing. I mean, I was this guy's mad that Cameron Crowe didn't stick around making small time indies. I mean, come on.
He abandoned his craft, man. Yeah, you're right. Like Tom Cruise has become Tom Cruise more since then. But he was already at this point Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
He was already Ethan Hunt.
He was. That same year. Talk about 1-2 punches. Next, Paul Tatara from CNN.com says, Cruise is very good in small moments with Dorothy's son, played charmingly by Jonathan Lipnicki. But in some of the bigger scenes, his performance is so wrong-headed, you can't imagine what he was thinking. I think he was thinking, I won an Oscar, damn it.
Yeah.
That's going to be rough if you don't like how Tom Cruise is playing Jerry Maguire, because he's playing him very strongly. So if you don't like some of those choices, you're stuck with those choices for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Jerry is in almost every scene, and it's a big performance. Sorry, Paul. Chris Hicks from Deseret News, Salt Lake City says, it talks the talk but doesn't walk the walk. Or in other words, it simply doesn't have heart. You think so, Alex? Do you think this movie is as cynical as the world that Tom Cruise is denouncing at the end?
No. I think Cameron Crowe, and even something just like the lighting of this movie, I think goes to show that Cameron Crowe likes to make movies that are happy. Mm-hmm. And show like the good in people. Even like a great example is Almost Famous, the ending of that. Yeah, no, neither of Russell nor William end up with Penny, but everything happens right, and it does provide a happy ending for all those involved. And that's Cameron Crowe, when he's at his best, can take elements that, you know, shine a light on real world aspects, but still make them a movie. And, you know, big kiss to send us off in the end, or big musical number to send us off. So it's, you know, he's not a guy like Scorsese that has a litany of films. So it's, you know, a very limited pool you're pulling from. But you watch something like Jerry Maguire, or in my case specifically Almost Famous, and Cameron Crowe is aware of the world he is making movies for, I guess would be the way I would say that, while wanting to make movies. Yeah. Like the lighting on that scene where they get home on the porch is like, that's like straight out of like a fucking 1950s or 60s like romance, you know?
Yep. It's weird because I get it that it's not a little bit of what we were joking about in Contrarians Corner, or at least I was joking about it, that it can feel a little manufactured, right? It's like so many scenes just feel like designed for the trailer, or designed to just be water cooler talk. Back when there were water coolers and talks around them. But I don't think that means that they don't have heart. I think that it's just, if anything, Crowe's style of filmmaking, at least in this movie and in others, it kind of harkens back to when, well, we were okay with movies being a little artificial for the sake of making us feel good. That's how, you know, I think that, yeah, you can be really cynical about Jerry Maguire. Member of the audience, and say like, oh, well, I'm not going to fall for it because it's Tom Cruise, and I don't buy him as a regular guy, and this is just a movie trying to manipulate me. And I mean, a little bit of what we were doing in the previous segment, but in the end, I think that, say what you will, it just feels silly to accuse Cameron Crowe of not putting heart in his movies when I've seen his worst movie, and even then, like, Aloha still has heart. Like I feel like he pours his soul out into these projects that he embarks on. So I completely disagree with this dude. Chris Hicks, I don't know what side of the bed did you wake up on that day, but I disagree. We're going to close with Rick Groan from Globe and Mail, who says there's much to admire in Jerry Maguire, except Jerry Maguire. So I'm guessing someone else that's not a fan of Cruise's performance, or maybe just the character. There was another quote that I didn't pull that was mentioned something about how they didn't buy Jerry Maguire's redemption. I don't even know that there was a whole lot that needed to be redeemed on him. I mean, he's a workaholic, but okay.
Yeah, and then even still, like, who knows what happens with Jerry and Dorothy, but the way the movie is she gives him a second chance, and we see that he's going to try. That's kind of we don't see him work his way back or what he does with this new opportunity, but that's the fucking point. That's when you peak, is like when you take him back and everything's happy and whatnot. So you're there for the wrong movie.
What did they want? How did this guy wanted Jerry to I guess atone for his sins? Yeah, he falls to his knees and cries. You know, it's funny because they're that last scene, they're leaving the zoo, right? Like they're asking Ray how he enjoyed the zoo. Do you think they're leaving Matt Damon's zoo from Cameron Crowe's future movie, We Bought a Zoo?
Boom.
The Crowverse.
Let's go right now. Let's go to the zoo.
Ray, the zoo, you know, fucking zoo's closed, right?
All right. This movie is... I have a lot of history with this movie, and the first thing I want to say is something I put out there on Twitter, and that is that I am shocked at the fact that Renée Zellweger didn't get an Oscar nomination, because it's all there. You know, like, if the movie had been shut out of the Oscars, I would get it. And like, oh, well, you know, it's just not one of those things. But it was nominated for Best Picture, and both Cruise and Cuba Gooding Jr. got nominations. So it was just like, they just had to push just like a little, like it was like an extra mile. And then they would get her for Best Leading Actress, and then fucking go all the way and give Regina King Best Supporting Actress. What happened? Are we saving all the Oscar stock for the video, or can we like complain about this specific instance?
Oh, no, we can. Yeah, I was just going to say we'd run down the nominees and whatnot, but like Best Leading Actress, Frances McDormand, Fargo, obviously very good. This, of course, was the year The English Patient ran amok. But to your point, Julio, coming into this, before I researched it today, I just assumed she was nominated for an Oscar for this.
Me too.
I knew that Cuba was the only one who won for it, but I assumed that she had a nomination for this, which has her only nomination been for what was that movie she did? Judy?
No, she has 2 wins, Alex, because she won for Cold Mountain.
Chicago? Oh, okay.
3 nominations then. Okay, she won for Cold Mountain, then got nominated for Chicago, and then won again for Judy.
My God, she has 4 nominations. She got nominated for Bridget Jones' Diary.
Renée Zellweger is doing fine without a Jerry Maguire nomination, clearly.
Slow news day.
Still, God damn it. It feels weird to just start real talk with me just fawning over her performance, because it is, you know, it's Tom Cruise's movie. But still, that was my big takeaway this time. My big takeaway watching it now, it was like, it's not just that she's as good as they are and they got a nomination. It's just that she is so great. Like I was, I guess I've always known that she was good in the role. And to me, this was the movie that introduced me to Renée Zellweger. Like I hadn't seen Empire Records before I watched this.
Yeah, it's an interesting conundrum's not the right word, but like, it's an interesting place for her, because Empire Records, I'm trying to think of anything else that like was really to speak of where she had like a real role. She's in Reality Bites, The Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Honestly, you know, she had about, you know, a dozen movies before this, but legit Empire Records was the only other one where she had like a showcase role, really. So this is without question like her coming out party. And on top of that, she just hits it out of the park. You're right. It seems to have all the parts that they look for, they being the Academy. It seems to have all the ingredients of what they celebrate, and yet it wasn't enough.
Like, you need to prove yourself, kid.
I guess so.
But Cuba,
your arms,
he just got it.
Your arms aren't long enough to box with Diane Keaton and Kristen Scott Thomas, baby.
I like them both. I haven't seen The English Patient since it came out, but I can tell you already that spot would have been more like Renée Zellweger deserved that spot more than Kristen Scott Thomas. That's so weird. Kristen Scott Thomas was also Mission Impossible. So there's a
She was
connection.
also in Only God Forgives, so anything good she did was eradicated.
So
by
karma's a bitch. That's what you're saying.
Karma is a bitch. Jerry Maguire. Joked about it earlier. Just a monolith, a fucking white burning supernova of pop culture material this movie is. But when you look past that, I don't think it's as good as Almost Famous, but there is something so special to this 2-movie run that Cameron Crowe went on of him. Well, it also depends on how you feel about Vanilla Sky. Personally, I think it's okay. If we're talking Cameron Crowe movies, at this point in my life, I'll watch Elizabethtown again before I watch Vanilla Sky. But
I think I agree.
Ooh, saucy.
I like Vanilla Sky probably more than the average person, but I think Vanilla Sky falters for me whenever it falters. It just doesn't feel very Cameron Crowe, which is
at all,
right?
And that's for all the shortcomings Elizabethtown has. That was the whole discussion we had. It's like it feels like a Cameron Crowe movie, but it feels like he just kind of lost sight of what he was doing a little bit somewhere along the way. I did joke about it, and it's like, oh fuck, Elizabethtown is a lot like Jerry Maguire. You know, he takes a risk with his career, and it ends up costing him his job, and he loses his girlfriend, his way hot girlfriend, his super hot girlfriend, in this case Jessica Biel.
He meets a quirky girl.
He does a little bit quirkier in 2004 or 3, whenever that came out. But so back to my original point, like, don't get me wrong, this is white people shit through and through.
What are you talking about? Rod Tidwell is black.
Okay, well, that's fair. And Cuba and Regina King are both fantastic in this, but I guess you're right. This is a bit of a more diverse movie than Almost Famous. But Cameron Crowe, in 2 extraordinary examples, was able to make near perfect movies for what he was trying to make. Some of the dialogue in this kind of loses me. It can get kind of goofy. But man, what just an unbelievable film to make for an audience in 1996. You have the sports influence. You have Tom Cruise. You have this pretty young new actress in here that absolutely steals the show. You have this little, just absolutely painfully adorable kid who he deserves some credit for his work with this, because at no point does the kid get annoying or overstay his welcome or seem like out of place.
Which is insane, one scene that it doesn't happen.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it.
I know. I couldn't wait to talk to you about Jonathan Lipnicki, because we all know Julio's long-standing rivalry with child actors. Even the one scene where, like, you know, he's serious, where he thinks they're leaving and he tells them just go ahead and go.
Yeah.
It works. It's tremendous.
Listen, you're going to like it, San Diego, Ray. Ray. It's going to be great there because you make a lot of friends. I'm going to see you this weekend, you know?
Go ahead and go. Go ahead and go.
That kid, that has to be, I mean, I don't know why, but I just read it as that was direction, and he was really good at taking direction, right? Like it's very, his performance is just very, it reads to me like Crowe told him, all right, in this one you're sad, and he just plays it sad, and then in this one you just say this and then you run away. In this one you're just swinging from their arms. It's just, you know, very like step by step, like single servings of direction, and then he takes that and then okay, next shot, and that's how it feels to me, which is fine because it works for the movie. Like I don't think when I watch him, It's not like when we did Paper Moon over on Patreon, and I was in awe of Tatum O'Neal's performance, where I was like, oh, I'm watching an actress, a tiny actress that has like a good grasp of the material. I mean, obviously, this kid was probably a little younger, but I'm watching him, and I don't get the sense that he really knows what's going on around him in the big scheme of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Cameron Crowe told him, all right, well, here you're sad because you like Tom Cruise and you're not going to see him again. But he's not aware of like what's happening. And that's fine, because all that matters is that it works for the movie. And it does. You're right. He never gets annoying, and he should be, but he doesn't.
Yeah. It had been at least 10 years since I watched this, and I was kind of blown away all over again, specifically by Jonathan Lipnicki and how the most was gotten out of that performance. To finish my point I was saying earlier, I don't necessarily think this is a perfect movie, but this is a perfect movie for what he wanted to make, if that makes any sense at all. And that's the Cameron Crowe thing of what we mentioned earlier, like the love and the lighting and the relationships developing and the show me the money and just like the absolute absurdity of some of these sequences, but mixed in with the soundtrack that only really he could nail the way he did. And that goes back, that's one of the things about Say Anything that people still celebrate. And even Elizabethtown, we talk about his taste and understanding of how to map out a movie using music is very impressive, and honestly unrivaled to the ability to make a movie like Jerry Maguire or an Almost Famous. I think some of the scenes linger too long. I mentioned some of the dialogue's a bit silly for me, but everyone is good in this movie. And when you have a cast this big and the people involved, like with the ranging abilities of acting, and also just like if you compare like resumes amongst all these, like Jay Moore like is hanging in there with Tom Cruise in those scenes that they have together, and it's crazy. And we've talked about before, yes, great actors can be great actors, but getting them all to work together and getting the best out of certain aspects of them, that is the hallmark of a great director. That is what we blow Scorsese about all the time. And so I think that, jumping ahead, this isn't like an A+ 5-star movie to me, but I really was taken aback upon this rewatch. Like I said, it's been a long time since I watched it, of just how well everything is pulled together.
It is his, I know you don't think it's his best, but it is his biggest one, right? I know that we kind of threw that out, I think maybe last episode or a couple episodes ago when we were talking about Jerry Maguire coming up, and it feels like this was as big as Crowe got as far as mainstream movies. Yeah.
I mean, he won his Oscar for Almost Famous, but like what we were talking about earlier, he got an amazing thing out of Kate Hudson, Billy Crudup, even, Frances McDormand would have probably been one of the biggest names involved in that movie. Tom Cruise was already fucking Tom Cruise in this. And, all the other players we've mentioned so far involved, this was a big movie. And even, I know it means nothing to you, but like the personalities from the sports world that he got involved in this too, and presenting them and getting dialogue delivered from them and lines from them that work in the context, and their delivery works in the context of the story. It's big is a perfect word. You use that word to describe it. It's his biggest movie, and that is hitting the nail on the head. You don't get movies like this very often. And I don't mean that from Cameron Crowe. I mean that from any director. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they don't... You talk about the dialogue. The dialogue works so well for me. I appreciated the effort put in the way that these characters talk. It's a throwback to an old episode where we had somewhat clashing opinions, where I was trying to defend Diablo Cody's screenplay in Juno. And, my point was like, she's trying.
That's it. That's why I do the Stanley laugh from The Office.
Your ego is prego, and this is a sketch you can't undo, whatever they say. It's like, that's an extreme example, but characters speaking in a distinctive manner to where you feel like, oh, there's a voice here, right? And Crowe's style obviously works a lot better for me. And there's this I just love it. I love the turns of phrase. Of course, I can't think of any right now where I know what you're talking about. You know, there were times where characters would say something where I'm like, all right, that's a little too cute, but I like it.
A lot of the shit Kelly Preston says,
I was
I'm just like,
about to say, like the breakup scene between Kelly Preston and Tom Cruise when she goes,
I did the 23-hour nose route to the top of El Capitan in 18 hours and 23 minutes. I can make this work.
I think that that line is great, and I think she delivers it about as well as you could deliver it, but that's not how people talk in that scenario, right? Like the way that she's saying, and it's sandwiched with better lines. I think that when she tells them,
you and I are salespeople. We sell.
Look,
it's not love me. It's not trust my handshake.
Okay.
It's make the sale, get it signed. There shouldn't be confusion about that.
Okay.
I love it. I think that he was like, fuck it, I'm going to make them sound good. It's a little bit like Sorkin. You know, that's why I love Sorkin. Like, it's not naturalistic dialogue, but it sounds naturalistic. It's a fine line, and you have to get the right actors. But I think that everybody does here that. I mean, all the flirtation between Jerry and Dorothy is just, I would say 70% of it is just, they're just movie lines. They're talking about like they're speaking like movie characters, and I don't care. I think it works. You know, he set out to make this sort of classic romance book ended by a sports story, but at the end it's just very it just felt very like a throwback to old romantic movies. It feels like we've been saying it a lot, like, oh, well, you wouldn't make this movie today, or, you know, this wouldn't get made. I mean, I think if Tom Cruise wanted to make Jerry Maguire 2, they would let him do it. But in the sense that this type of romance, this type of love story, I don't think that there's a lot of interest in it these days. But there should, I mean, especially when it's as well written as it is here. And it's not just the dialogue, but just the fact that he allows these characters to be complex, and for the relationship to not be just black and white. It took me a couple watches to really come to terms with just how complicated it is that, you know, he cares for her, but obviously he doesn't want to marry her, but marries her anyway. And then at the end, I'm supposed to be okay with him coming back. You know, like the arc of that relationship was really difficult for me to grasp when I was younger. You know, because to me, it was like, well, they're either right for each other or they're not. And if the way that he behaves for a good chunk of the movie, you're like, no, they shouldn't be together. You know, he marries her for the wrong reasons, and yet somehow it's still okay by the end. And now I buy it. You know, it's like feelings can be complicated. Adult life is really complicated, and the fact that he has second thoughts about getting married, it's just that he's not comfortable being married. You know, he rushes it, but that doesn't mean that he can't, you know, realize later on that I do love her. You know, that kind of stuff. And so that also cushions the dialogue because it's these characters in very complex, compelling situations, and then they're talking in a way that's interesting, that makes it even more fun to watch them interact. You know, it's like a completely different genre, but also like why a good Elmer Leonard adaptation works so well for me, because it's like, oh, these people, they're very interesting when they talk. They say things in a way that's not quite the way that I just hear people talk on everyday life, and that makes it fun. I really like the writing. I guess that's my main thing. And I like the way that, like I said, that he fleshes out those characters. I don't think that I had noticed. It's not that I hadn't noticed. I don't think that I had appreciated Rod's character as much until this time at the wedding, where he notices that Dorothy has noticed on the video that he's not happy, that Cruise is like conflicted, and he looks at her. She makes a face, he makes a face, he smiles, and then he goes out of his way to try to diffuse the tension. And it's that character moment is amazing. Like, based on everything that we've seen Rod do up till that point. And it's not like suddenly he becomes an easier person to deal with. Instead, next time we see him, he's confronting Jerry like very harshly about the marriage. So it's great. And I also had noticed while we're on that wedding scene, like the thing that he does on the video where he's like rubbing his forehead and whatever. I cannot believe, I've seen this movie like maybe 10 times, and I can't believe that this is the first time I've noticed that he does that when the mariachis come to him during their date. right? Like she leaves him
Yeah.
alone because she has to go call and check on Ray. And then she sees him and he's all awkward, you know, because the mariachis are playing and he's doing that thing with his hand or rubbing his forehead. And I saw him this time and I was like, oh shit, she makes that connection when she's watching the video. Like I always thought that she just saw the video and he looks clearly uncomfortable. So I'm like, oh, she just made the assumption that he was uncomfortable. But now it's like, oh no, she's seen him act that way, have that tick when he's uncomfortable. So it's good stuff. It's so well written. I mean, there's no point in me even trying to be suspenseful about it. I think it's better than Almost Famous. I think it's his best movie.
Well, that's just like your opinion, man. But yeah, while we're there, I mean, the one Academy Award winner of the bunch, we were very complimentary, obviously, of Tom Cruise and Renée Zellweger. Regina King is fantastic in this as well. But Cuba, you know, he took it home. And, you know, motherfucker's rich. And he's lived a life of celebrity. And he's had some resurgences from time to time. So, you know, it's always an easy go-to joke that, you know, he peaked with Jerry Maguire and it's been all downhill just because I think his performance was so sensational and his Oscar acceptance was so memorable that, you know, that's the end of the movie. You know, when he wins and reacts that way, that's literally like how Tropic Thunder ends, you know, that's the peak. So I can see why people think, or people like myself jest that, you know, oh, it was all over after that, but he's made like 1,000 movies since then. And, because of things like Show Me the Money, Shoplift the Pootie, which that's also one of those scenes that I'm just like, all right, I've never been able to make up my mind if that's either really cringe or really funny. It walks that line so finely. And I more often than not side with it's just really funny because of Tom Cruise's impeccable delivery of, I did not shoplift the Pootie.
Followed by, okay, I did shoplift the Pootie.
But what I'm trying to get at here is it is extremely easy to lose sight of how good this movie is because of its just insane impact on just daily speech for some people. And you dig deeper, it's easy to lose sight of how good Tom Cruise was, Renée Zellweger was. It is most easy, unfortunately, and should not go without calling out, like, it's easy to forget how amazing Cuba Gooding Jr. is in this movie. And that's not even like recency bias or just I watched this today. I was like, man, he was really good. It's like, that is, you watch and you go, that isn't like an Oscar. That is the peak of the field. And that's an Oscar winning performance right there. You know, when you see something like what he did in this movie.
It's easy. I think it's easy to dismiss it today. Maybe even at the time for, you know, everybody,
there you go.
Because it's the biggest performance, even though Cruise is going really big, but Cruise is making the conscious decision to make Jerry Maguire kind of like a big character. Whereas like Rod Tidwell is written as a big character to begin with. So I don't think that you could play him any other way. Like Cuba Gooding Jr. had to do that writing justice. And he does. He comes in, from the moment he comes in, he's just very funny, very energetic, and he keeps it up. And then, as we were referencing just like a minute ago, you know, he has those moments of calm when you're like, okay, he's not just this dude that won't stop talking about himself. Like, he has enough awareness where he knows what's going on with Jerry, and he cares. You know, he cares about other people. It's just that he has his priorities, and he also has enough self-awareness to be shamed when he gets called out on his bullshit. So when there's that scene when Jerry basically explains to him why he's not a bigger star, and you can see in Cuba Gooding Jr.'s performance that it registers. He knows that he's being told the truth and he doesn't like it. It's great.
Yeah.
But of course those moments can get lost in the bigger thing, right? Like the Show Me the Money and the Quan and the big touchdown dance at the end and all those things, right? So yeah, I watched it today and it was kind of like the least surprising element of the movie. It was almost like he was exactly the way I remembered him.
No heart? I'm all heart, motherfucker!
All of these performances, though, pale in comparison to the very random but fitting for a Cameron Crowe movie. The cameo by Jerry Cantrell in the beginning of this movie. Jerry Cantrell, of course, the guitarist, amazing guitar player guitarist and vocalist for Alice in Chains, provided backup and in some cases lead vocals for their music. He was part of one of my favorite albums of all time. Like if I had 5 albums to listen to for the rest of my life, the Alice in Chains Unplugged album is just unreal, and he is a huge part of that. He is in this movie for less time than I just spent talking about him, but he's the employee at Kinko's or wherever Tom goes to print his.
Oh,
the guy who says, "That's how you become great, man. Hang your balls out there."
Love it.
And there's an awesome picture I found just looking into it of Cantrell, Cameron Crowe, and Tom Cruise all on set together. It's, just a candid.
Just rehearsing that line.
We can use it for the thumbnail for the Real Talk segment.
I like it. Tom Cruise as Jerry Maguire. I remember reading an interview or seeing an interview with him at the time. I watched this movie when it came out. I think he was already nominated when I saw it. Yeah. Well, you got to one of the best parts, Alex. You got to see
there you go.
A very intense, very un-Crowe-like sex scene, at least
Kelly
from what
Preston
I remember.
just getting railed. Yeah.
I think she is railing Cruise in that scene.
I mean, the positioning wouldn't work, but that for what you're implying, but yes.
The intention.
I mean, RIP, and it kind of did make me sad. Just no point in getting into that. But it kind of feels like you never really know with that whole situation. But so I do want to pay my proper respects and then say that she is unbelievably gorgeous in this movie.
Yes,
and the fact that she's mean makes it even hotter, dude.
I figure you would go for that. Punch me, please. Punch me, Kelly Preston. Tell me I'm a loser.
I won't let you hurt me, Jerry. I'm too strong for you, loser.
But Cruise, I remember reading he was doing the awards circuit, doing the interviews, the junkets, something, but he was talking about how he was sitting in his car one time and he saw some guy walk by and he was on the phone and he looked kind of worried and he just started thinking, I wonder what that guy's deal is. It was just like a random person, your average person. And that kind of like set him off thinking that every person has a story and that he was interested in playing just a regular person, that the movie should be about a regular person. I don't know how that ties into him meeting up with Cameron Crowe, or if that's something that he was waiting for the right character to bring that energy and then this project happened, or if he looked up Cameron Crowe and said, hey, do you want to write a movie about a regular guy? I don't know. But the idea is that obviously Jerry Maguire is trying to sell you Tom Cruise as a regular guy, or Tom Cruise's version of a regular guy. And I made fun of it in Contrarians Corner. Like, we laughed about it. We've laughed about it in Moneyball with Brad Pitt. It's just something that happens with big movie stars, right? And I think it works. He is definitely, he's very Tom Cruise in the way that, like, I was thinking, watching this, I'm like, all right, you could make Jerry Maguire without him being a superstar, right? Like, what if you had... staying with this little group of movies, like what if you had Jonah Hill play Jerry Maguire, right? Not clown Jonah Hill, but the Jonah Hill from Moneyball, like serious actor Jonah Hill, and he can go through the same things, because the character doesn't require Jerry Maguire to look like a movie star or to even have, he needs to be charismatic in the sense that that's part of his job. His job is that he's a good talker, but that doesn't mean that, any number of actors can play fast talkers, people that are charismatic, without actually having, that mega Hollywood star quality. And I think that would make for an interesting movie where you remove that element of superstardom from Jerry, and he's instead really a regular guy, like I think maybe even the script demanded or was asking for at some point. And I wonder how that plays with the rest of the thing. There's so much that I love this movie just because of how it's Tom Cruise playing him. And I am on the camp that, actually really likes Tom Cruise as an actor. And so him being in the movie automatically like raises the level because I just enjoy him doing this thing. But what if you have like, somebody else? What if it's a young Mark Rylance playing Jerry Maguire? It's like, how does that change the story? Does it make it, maybe it makes it more believable that he goes through these things, makes it easier to connect, but also makes it maybe sadder? I don't know. There's this thing watching Tom Cruise go through this where you're just reassured just by his stardom. I feel like that everything's going to be okay. So I have, as heartbreaking as it is to see Dorothy break up with him, I never had any doubts that they were going to end up being okay. And that is something that I guess, when you cast somebody that has that persona, maybe that comes with the territory, and you're using that to enhance the movie a certain way. So anyway, I guess my point is, I think that Jerry Maguire could work without Tom Cruise. It would work in a different way, but I think it would still be like a really good movie, a really interesting movie, because I like the script. But I love that it's a movie with Tom Cruise because what he does there is, he's doing his thing with the character, and he has a very specific take, and he's going for it. And I miss Tom Cruise doing that stuff. Now he's just Ethan Hunt and Jack Reacher, and he's great at those movies. I've had that complaint, that lament about Angelina Jolie, right? Like, but now she's mostly for at least for a good stretch of her career, she was just like an action star, and other actors that have come up on the show and off mic too. But it's, at one point he just stopped taking on these roles that require him to flex those acting muscles, and instead it's more of the stunts and the action sequences and the big box office releases, and that's great. Somebody has to do it, and he definitely seems to be doing it very well. It's good for the industry. But I'm ready for him to do another Jerry Maguire, just to do something else,
or something like Magnolia, or just something like, go for it, man.
Yeah, he can. And clearly he doesn't have to, but I just don't know. What's the, is it just that he's trying to fit in as many action movies as possible before he just can't do it anymore? Because, at some point it's just doing those stunts is going to be prohibitive. There's only so much he can do. So he's just trying to fit them in now, and then he can go back to trying other things, doing dramas and all stuff. I can't think of the last Tom Cruise movie where I felt like, he's taking a big swing. What, Tropic Thunder, maybe?
You could make that argument, yeah. Edge Tomorrow's fucking dope, but that definitely falls in line with what you've outlined.
Come back, Tom. You can do it.
Let me tell you something about Jerry Maguire, okay? You come after me, and you will lose, because I am a survivor. I'm a survivor.
All right. Well, as I mentioned at the kickoff of this, that's a football reference, Julio.
That's that thing that they're playing, right, on the field.
Yes, the oblong pigskin. So coming into this, I always knew this was one of Julio's favorites. And it was a movie we talked about a lot pre-podcasting days, just in our film discussion. And I knew it was one of his favorites in a movie that was near and dear to his heart. Coming out of this discussion, Julio, after this most recent viewing, is it still there? And dare I say, is it even closer, more near and dear, in a movie you have more warmth about now?
Yes, it is. I hadn't seen it since. I'll make this quick. I won't go into all the details, but basically before I moved to Austin. So the year before I moved to Austin, so New Year's from 2008 to 2009, I came to Austin to celebrate New Year's. My friend Drew, my friend Jessica, and we just rented a room somewhere downtown, and we just drove on the 31st here, pre-gamed at the hotel, then went downtown to 6th Street, partied all night. It was amazing. I remember maybe half the night. And then went back to the hotel, passed out, woke up the next morning, and turned the TV on, and Jerry Maguire was on. And so we're all just kind of like recovering from the New Year's party, and we just let the movie play. And I'd seen it a number of times. Drew had seen it a number of times. I don't know how familiar Jessica was with the movie, but she definitely kind of like endured Drew and I laughing and pointing at the screen and quoting the movie. And the Kushlash scene just set us off. I don't know what, we're still probably half drunk, but just the idea of Jerry O'Connell with the guitar singing, making up this song about his last name, it just stuck with us, and it just became a running bit for the rest of the weekend. And we would just, at random times, we just go like, Kushlash, Kushlash. We would quote other things about the movie, and we would do the Tom Cruise pointing move he does at the end. I think he does it more than once in the movie, but at the very end, when Cuba's coming out and the reporters are swarming him, and he's like, Jerry, where's Jerry? And then they lock eyes, and Tom Cruise, he's like teary-eyed, and he points at Cuba Gooding Jr., but he's also kind of pointing at the screen. That Tom Cruise point, like, we were doing it all the time. Whenever something happened, we just like point at each other. It was just so dumb. But it was, Jerry Maguire became this thing that was just now interwoven with my my friendship with Drew, my memory of that New Year's celebration, which kind of in a way is one of those New Year's celebrations that I've been just chasing the rest of my life. Like, that's the standard. If I'm going partying somewhere, I want to party like we partied that night. So there's a lot of like good memories going on with that movie. For one of my birthdays, Drew brought me a hat that was, I think it says Team Kushlash, or maybe Tim Kush. It was
amazing,
like the one that's in the movie. So I have reasons to love this movie beyond its quality, but I liked it before then, and now I think that's the last time I watched it. So now this is, 10 years later, and more than 10 years later. So I watched it not with fresh eyes, because at this point that's impossible, but definitely with enough time had passed that I was just experiencing it. A lot of it just felt I was getting reacquainted with the movie, and that process was very, very rewarding. Like I said, I was rediscovering Renée Zellweger's performance. I've seen her win 2 Oscars by now, and I've seen her in plenty of movies, but just the idea that this was just her making a splash. I mean, she and Cuba Gooding Jr. made a splash with this movie, and she's great, and like I said, as an older person now, appreciating the nuances of those relationships. Yeah, no, this is a great movie. It's going into the pantheon of great movies that I love, that I will push on people. I'm giving it the full Monty. It's 5 stars.
You're showing it the money?
I'm showing it the money. And you know what, Alex? If you want this jacket, you can have it, because I'm cloaked in failure.
I gave it 4 stars on my Letterboxd review. I give this an A-. It's, for me personally, like I said, a lot of the scenes linger on a bit too long, and some of the dialogue is a bit saccharine for me, but that's fine, because that's what it wants to be, and it excels and thrives in being Jerry Maguire, which is when pen went to paper, and what Cameron Crowe wanted to make, he made. It's a fantastic film. And like I said, the only negatives I can say about it are like little things that, like, personally don't work for me as well as for others like yourself. But I mean, Jerry Maguire's, it's fucking phenomenal. If you've never seen it before, unfortunately, I think you may be too long in the path of like cliches to appreciate it for, and I don't mean to tell you what you do and how you think. I'm not gonna tell anyone what to do or how to think, but I'm just saying that there's a lot going into it now versus like, seeing it in the late 90s, early 2000s. But great shit. Great film. We're on a roll. This and the Flintstones, man. We had 2 good movies back to back. I think these 2 have erased the torturous nature of A Good Day to Die Hard. So, Julio, with that being said, will the streak continue? What is next?
Well, this is uncharted territory, Alex. At least for me. I don't know. But patron Jamie Russell, referenced already once during the segment, he wants us to talk about Drop Dead Gorgeous, which is rotten. So we're going to be nice about it. But I don't know
The
much about it?
The mockumentary?
Is it a mockumentary? I don't know.
Are we talking about the one with Kirsten Dunst and Kirstie Alley?
And Denise Richards.
Oh, dude. Yeah, that movie fucking rules. This is news to me. You hadn't told me this is on the horizon.
It's on the spreadsheet.
Oh, shit. I didn't consult the spreadsheet. I always look at like our patron shit, like what's coming up. Hold on. Let me check this to confirm. It's on the spreadsheet, folks. So that's my fault for not double checking. Oh, I am fired up, man. Drop Dead Gorgeous rules.
Okay, well, there you go. That Alex already knows what he's in for. I don't. Like I said, I barely know the cast, and only because I had to pull a picture of the poster for our website. So I don't know anything. I didn't know it was a mockumentary. That's cool. I don't know if we've done a mockumentary on the show yet. So
yeah. Well, you know what? Peter's gay. Gay. I'm sorry. That's like my favorite part from that movie. I dated a girl that we used to quote that all the time. So you will know what I'm quoting when the time comes.
All right. Well, that's it. Drop Dead Gorgeous coming up next. And this, by the way, this is the end of our live stream debt. We're done with it. Can't wait to acquire a new one next year.
So yet another thank you to everyone who made this possible with your donations and support on live stream for The Cure. And just to reiterate the words of my co-host a moment ago, can't wait to acquire more debt next year.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we have to get through Drop Dead Gorgeous. What is going to happen if I hate this movie, given Alex's enthusiastic response to even hearing the title? I don't know. It should be interesting. I'll go in open-minded. I like Kirsten Dunst. She was in Elizabethtown.
I think you're not aware of what you're in for. If I had to guess, just based on your inflection and tone of this, I don't think you really know what you're in for, and I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised.
It's great. Good stuff, Jamie. Brace yourself. But that's it. Let's get out of here, Alex.
Let's do. Show me the outro. Welcome to our end credits.
Or as we usually call them, our perennial plugs.
We start off by giving thanks to the Festive Years who provide our opening and closing tracks. They kick us off with Last Stand and take us home with Summer of 99. Be sure to head over to thefestiveyears.com for any and all Festive Years needs.
Our friend and fellow podcaster Hans Rothgieser is the man behind our logo and all the art you see related to our show. Reach out to him and let him know how much you like that little tomato. His email address is mildemonios@hotmail.com and his website is mildemonios.pe. That's MILDEMONIOS. You can also check out his podcast Nación Combi about Peruvian current affairs and Marginal about economy. Hans, thank you for all your support.
For those interested in the regularly absurd world of professional wrestling, Joe and the boys over at latenightgrin.com have you covered. Tell them the Contrarians sent you.
And we like to close with special thanks to our social media team of Zoe Perez and Coriari. Each of the social media accounts we mentioned in the introduction look as good as they do because of their work.
So that'll do it for this episode of The Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong, and we will catch you next time.
How much money he makes a year, who knows? Just promise me you'll wear that dress and you won't forget that some of the main